Good morning, guys. It's another great Friday, and it's me again, Coach Raymund Suba from 𝘰𝚤 Martial Arts Organization. And today we're going to teach 𝘰𝘚. It's going to be our second day to be learning 𝘰𝘚. All right. So last lesson we learned a lot of some of the basic movements, a lot of the basic single stick patterns, and a lot of the basic double stick patterns. We're gonna do more of the same today. All right. So matututo tayo ng mga techniques that are used in different situations, no? So what we're going to start with is the 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓 movement, right? We're going to start with the basic standing position, the one that I taught you guys last time, which is caballero, right foot forward, shoulder square, facing your opponent, right? Hand in the 𝘰𝘪𝘴𝘤 position, so it can be pointing up or pointing to the back. Either one is possible, all right? In our experience, if you're a zero beginner, pointing backwards is the best. If you're a little bit more advanced, you point it upwards. This has more flexibility in the movements, no? This has more flexibility in attack defense. This one is predominantly improving your attacking speed, all right, and attacking power pag 𝘰𝘪𝘴 position. All right. So again, caballero position. And again, for people who are left-handed, babaliktad tayo. Left hand, left foot forward. All right. Same position, same everything. Left lang ang mauuna. All right. So, let's get started. The 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓 is dalawang saksak. How does that work? From this position, it's going to go down. And it's going to go around and down again. Alright? So, it's almost like an X movement. Pero instead of palo, ang ginagawa natin is stab. Right? You're going to stab down, stab up. Alright? This is the 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓. Alright? Very basic movement. So let me show you guys from the side here. 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓. Stab up, stab down, stab down. Now this, guys, we're gonna go into the applications later on. So we're just gonna start with the movements first, right? So the next movement that we're going to learn is the abanico. All right. So for you guys again who speak Spanish or medyo familiar with the word, abanico means fan or pamaypay, diba? So the abanico movement is this one, right? This is called the big abanico. All right, and then there's the small abanico, which is this one, right? I'm gonna show you guys the applications for this later. So again, big abanico, small abanico, right? And then the last one that we're going to do is one of my favorites, the reloj de arena. All right. So again, for those who speak Spanish, the reloj de arena means hourglass, yung sand timer, no? So, if you guys can imagine the shape of a sand timer, ganun din yung pattern. So, the most basic one is horizontal sa taas, diagonal down, horizontal sa baba, diagonal up. Alright? So, I hope you guys can imagine how that is a reloj de arena. So, horizontal, baba, taas, pataas ulit. Horizontal, diagonal, horizontal, diagonal. Ito siya. Alright? This is the last one, the reloj de arena. Alright? So, iba-iba yung directions niya. Alright? So, these are very basic movements, no? So, let's go into the application of it. So, as I mentioned before, no? There's more than one way to apply these techniques. The ones that I'm going to show to you guys is probably the most basic. The most basic application lang. Yung pinaka-obvious na application lang. So, let's start with the 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓. Right? So, as I mentioned earlier, the 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓 is stab down, stab down. Right? Stab down, stab down. Alright. Now, the 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓, it can be done in the middle of a technique or something. Right? So, for example, the opponent attacks me here. Right? Cuts to my neck, right? This is his target. I can go here, all right? And then as always, as I taught last time, check the hand, and then 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓 from here, right? The great thing about the 𝘕𝘠𝘳𝘓 is it's already pretty high here. So for example, if the opponent is attacking me here, right? Ito lang siya. Very quick. Kasi hindi mo na siya palo. No. This one takes a lot of time, right? This takes more time compared to derecho, right? So that's what it's applied for. Now also, the 𝘰𝘠𝚳 is considered a short range technique. As you notice, no? Pay attention to how far my stick is. So the one that I taught last time, the 𝘰𝘰𝘯𝘊𝘢, right? Boom. The counter, see how far that goes, right? With the 𝘰𝘠𝚳, it can only go so short. Dito lang siya, right? That's the kind of movement that you have, right? Very short. Boom. Boom. Right? Also, for example, if the opponent has a guard position, naka-ready position siyang ganyan, right? And you're able to close the gap, 𝘰𝘠𝚳 works best. And the 𝘰𝘠𝚳 is a very thrust-oriented technique. Like I mentioned, this is more for swords than for sticks, right? If you're going to use sticks for it, you have to adapt the stick a little bit, right? Kasi kahit gaano kalakas mo isaksak to, wala talagang damage siya compared to a sword. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to adapt it a little bit. So the 𝘰𝘠𝚳 goes here. You're going to hold it with two hands and then you can jam it into your opponent's face, right? Dito siya. Yun na yung application niya. Very, it's slightly different and modified na. Alright, so that's the 𝘰𝘠𝚳. So again, for more sword-like techniques, dito siya. Boom. Right? Very simple. Very fast. Right? But again, very short. So kung malayo yung kalaban, you can't use the 𝘰𝘠𝚳. Next technique that I showed you guys was the 𝘰𝘠𝘵𝘠. Right? So the 𝘰𝘠𝘵𝘠 is a very interesting technique kasi I'm gonna show you guys from the side. I think I didn't show it earlier. So ito siya. It's a series of vertical strikes, right? Now, if you're doing it to you guys, as you can see, some of it is slightly diagonal, some of it is perfectly vertical, right? Ito vertical, slightly diagonal. So, minsan dito, slightly diagonal, vertical, right? How does that work, right? So, it's very much, it's a very narrow technique. Now, the technique has a very funny story behind it. I don't know how true the story is, pero masaya siya pakinggan, right? Ang story niya is, ito daw ay na-develop ng isang arnis master at one point, who specialized in this technique. And he uses it pag marami siyang kalaban, which is very weird, right? Kasi, ang liit lang niya, sa harap lang siya, pero pang maramihan siya. How does that work? Ang ginagawa daw niya, if he's about to be surrounded ng maraming kalaban, he just stands by a doorway, right? So, dun lang siya sa doorway nakikipaglaban. Right? So since nandun siya sa doorway, it removes a lot of the horizontal movements. Ito lang ang pwedeng gamitin. Right? And then he specializes in this technique. How true that story is, I don't know, but it's a good story, you know? And it helps us remember what the technique is for. In a tight space na walang vertical, if you're fighting inside your house, right? If you're defending inside your house, if you're defending in a confined space, perfect siya. Kasi wala siya nung malalaking movements, right? You don't need that. Ito lang siya, right? Now, how does that work? So again, it's gonna be small circles. So I'm gonna show you guys how the 𝘰𝘠𝚳 works in close quarters, no? So if someone is cutting to the top of my head, right, and then my hand is down here, right? Sabihin natin, nag-attack ako, nakaiwas siya, and my hand is down here. It's gonna cut to the top of my head. I can't defend with my left hand, right? Otherwise, mapapalo lang din yan. So from here, you're gonna cut up and then slap it out of the way. Alright? So from here, boom, then down. Same direction. Diagonal up, diagonal down. Right? So very, very basic stuff. Right? Yun yung one application of it. Right? The opponent's here, slap it away, down. If you have enough power, you can slap the weapon away, goes down harmlessly. Right? Kahit nandito yan, then down. Very simple stuff, right? So again, it's up to you how you want to counter it, right? So as I showed you in our last session, I used a lot of footwork to make it work. So pag walang footwork, counter to the hand. Very simple, right? But if you want to knock the person out for some reason, I don't know why, right? Do a caballero step forward, you eat up a lot of space, you hit the head. I'm gonna show it to you from the other side. So if the opponent was striking here, right? kamay lang pag walang foot movement. That's all you can hit, right? Now, if you put in caballero movement, then you can cut at the head of your opponent, right? If he's close enough, right? So, boom, cut, right? Now, the beautiful thing about the 𝘠𝘠𝑝𝑒𝑑, and the thing that I really like about it is, it has multiple diagonal applications. So, if the strike is coming from this side naman, ito lang din. Cut up, cut down. So, it's the same movements I've been teaching earlier, right? Applied in multiple situations, right? So that's the great thing about it. So I'm gonna show you guys how it kind of works, right? So here, so from here, cut up, cut down, cut up, cut down, right? So it's all this movement, right? Kayang-kaya. So even if he's striking to the side, walang problema. If the opponent is striking to the side, right? Same thing. Cut up, cut down. Let it interrupt. Or, from the side siya dito, cut down, cut up. Right? You're gonna move his weapon to the side, cut up towards the opponent. So, again, to show it to you from the other side, if he was cutting me from this position, right? Sorry, from this angle, so again, so if he was cutting me from this angle, very simple, cut up, cut down, right? Or, sorry, cut down, cut up, right? Very simple stuff. Ito lang yung ginagawa, right? Very tight. All right. So those are the two movements muna. So I've taught you guys the, sorry. So I've taught you guys the 𝘠𝘠𝑘𝑒. I've taught you guys the 𝘠𝘠𝑝𝑒𝑑. And the last one that I'm going to teach is the the next one is the 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, right? The 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, as I showed you guys earlier, there's the big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, small 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜. How does that work, right? So let's say, for example, very contextual siya. Let's say, for example, I'm fighting someone. I made an attack and I left my weapon here. Nakaiwas siya, right? And my weapon is down here. Then he's gonna counter attack, right? Oh no, what do I do, right? So the easiest, one of the easiest ways to counter this is with an 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜. This one. What you're going to do is you're going to use a lot of your core power to bring this up. Then you slap it to the side, right? Now, you're going to combine the two 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜s, the big and the small. How does that work? So from here, nag-cut yung kalaban, big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, small 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, right? Again, so here, big, small. So, ang ka-counterin ko, if I'm gonna do it slowly, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna counter towards the hand, right? Big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, small 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, right? Very simple, right? Even from the other side, big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, small 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, right? Alright, so big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, small 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜. So big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, boom, small, counter the hand. Also from this side, big 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, counter to the hand, right? Very simple stuff. Ko-combine mo lang siya. Boom. Now, this can also combine with your other movements. Like, let's say, for example, the 𝘰𝑘𝑖𝑠, right? If you have the 𝘰𝑘𝑖𝑠 movement, right? You're countering here, right? Boom. Then you can counter into your opponent's space with the small 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜. What's the advantage of the 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜 over other strikes, no? The 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜 is, again, much like the 𝘠𝘠𝑘𝑒, it's a very short technique. Hindi siya makaabot ng malayo. It's here lang. Small, right? Very small movement. But the great advantage of it is, sobra siyang bilis compared to normal strike. Kasi a normal strike, ito, 𝘰𝑛𝑖𝑘𝑜, you can do 2 rapid succession. Ang bilis. So yung block counter mo, it's almost a half beat for each strike, no? So it's very fast. So it's a medyo pros and cons situation. You sacrifice your range, but you gain speed. So it's up to you, as you train, you realize what situation calls for what movement. Kailan kailangan yung talagang may buwelong malakas? Kailan yung kailangan medyo pitik lang? You understand that through experience, no? The more you train, the more you spar, the more you fight other people, the more you understand body mechanics and fight mechanics, and you know when that happens. So for you guys who are more familiar, let's say, with boxing, no? When it comes to boxing, you always jab, right? May jab sa boxing, may straight, tapos may haymaker, yung malalaki, right? Or even the uppercut. You don't always fight trying to put in the uppercut and uppercut all the time. No boxer does that. You combine it. Same thing with arnis, right? You're going to combine a lot of these techniques together. You chain them together, and you figure out what situation calls for what technique. All right. So we're done with what do you call this? We're done with the abanico, right? And then the last one is the reloj de arena. All right. The reloj de arena is a very complex one. It's very interesting. Masarap kasi siya pang exercise. What do I mean? Right? You can just stand in place, right? Face something. Imagine your reloj de arena, right? And just draw it. You can do it in beats of 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So ano yung itsura nun? If you were fighting someone, right? Horizontal, diagonal. Block and counter. 1, 2. Right? So ganun na siya. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? But, here's the fun part. You can also change the rhythm. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4. What does that look like? 1, 2, 3. Right? And then 4. Yung last rhythm na yon, it's a very interesting thing. It's kind of an advanced technique, but I'll explain it to you guys. 1, 2, 3. Right? As I mentioned, it can be attack. Nag-attack ako. Hindi ko tatamaan yung kalaban. Right? So, ka-counter siya sa akin. I attack. Hindi ko tinamaan. Counter siya to me. Right? Pag counter niya, I can slap it aside. 3 and 3. Counter ulit. So, it's attack, block, counter. Right? Again, I'll show it to you guys. Whoop. Yeah. So again, from here, it's going to be attack. Whoop. Nakaiwas. Block. Right? Then counter. Right? Attack. Block. Counter. You hit them here. Right? So depending on the part of the opponent. Right? So ganun siya. Attack. Block. Counter. So yun yung 1, 2, 3. Ano yung 4? Just in case hindi siya tumumba sa 3, 4. Alright? There are situations like that na magkakaroon ng pause. How does that happen? So especially if you're using a stick and you're fighting someone, right? Napalo mo siya, boom! He doesn't go down but he gets surprised. Right? Bigla siya magkakaroon ng moment na gagantihan. Right? This is a bit advanced, so meron siyang rhythm na gaganti siya sa'yo. Sometimes, attacking full speed doesn't really work. Bakit? Magsasabay kayo ng tamaan. So sometimes you have to wait to bait your opponent. So 1, 2, 3. Tapos gaganti pa siya isa, 4. Right? You have to wait for that one. Some people say it's giving your opponent more rope to hang themselves with. You're giving them that space to strike para pumalo sila because you actually want them to strike so you can counter whatever they're doing. Right? It's a weird thing, but it's something that happens. Kasi otherwise, if you don't wait and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 mo tatama, baka, who knows, right? Yung form nyo, magtatamaan kayo sabay. Baka matalo ka. Baka mas malakas siya sa'yo. Right? That's one of the major things that we assume in arnis, especially the way I teach it. Never assume that you're faster. Never assume that you're stronger. Kasi hindi natin alam kung sino makakalaban natin. Right? Malay natin, matagal na siyang nagka-training. Mas mabilis siya sa'yo. Or mas bata siya sa'yo. For people who are getting on with age, like me, I'm getting closer to my 40s, right? Now, if you feel ko my body's slowing down a little bit, right? If my opponent is faster than me, paano na yun? Then I get beaten up? No. There are techniques around that, right? So don't assume that you're faster than your opponent. Don't assume you're stronger. Kaya yung mga ibang techniques natin, may pause just to let your opponent do something, right? Para hindi kayo magsabayan. Alright, so the last one, so that's the reloj de arena. Now, here's another thing that's fun about the reloj de arena. I've taught you the standing reloj. Pwede natin ihiga yung reloj de arena, right? You can bring it down. It goes vertical, diagonal, vertical, diagonal. So, it's the same thing. Pero nakahiga na yung reloj de arena mo, right? How does that work? Again, it's the same thing na you're imagining a strike, you're imagining a block. Yeah? So like I mentioned last time, this is like shadow boxing, right? You're imagining multiple opponents, you're imagining attacks coming at you, right? You just use the 𝘰𝘪𝘴𝘐 arenas. Some of the movements become blocks, some of the movements become strikes, right? So that's how you use it. All right. Now, when it comes to the footwork, as you guys may have noticed, I'm always using the caballero and the guerrero footwork. It's always forward, back, even with the 𝘰𝘪𝘴𝘐 arena, right? And then sometimes forward here. That's all the footwork you'll ever need. All right, that's the stuff that we learned last time, and today we're applying it in different situations. All right. So next up, what we're gonna do is double stick. We're gonna go and learn a new pattern that's pretty flashy and pretty interesting. I'm gonna teach you guys a new double stick pattern. So I hope the guys who watched yung video natin last time, you're able to practice the 𝘠𝘪𝘴𝘐𝚗𝚎 on your own. No, it's a very fun exercise to do. It really helps with your coordination. For the old people out there who are looking for something new, something different to try, this one's really good for you. Now, I'm going to teach you guys the next movement is what we call the redonda, right? And again, for people who can speak Spanish, redonda has the same sound as round, you know, bilog. So it's basically the double sinawali. Pero the double sinawali was more angular. Right? May kanto yung movement, no? Ito yung double sinawali eh. Now, the redonda that I'm gonna teach today, walang kanto, very smooth siya, pabilog. But it's going to be the same movement, almost same sequence. Alright, so we're gonna go through it together. Alright, very simple lang siya. Ito. Then the big redonda is here, right? So, let's go through it step by step. Okay? Again, fighting position, right foot forward, shoulder square, curve your spine. Then you put in the manot silya position. Alright, so right hand up, left hand low. Right? So first strike, ito sa redonda, lahat ng strikes, especially for the first one, the vertical redonda, bumbunan yung tinatamaan or the top of the head. Alright? So top of the head, you bring it across, left hand goes up, top of the head again. And 2. Again, top of the head, up, top of the head. Alright, and then it goes down. Again, last. 1, top of the head, top of the head. Now, yung left hand, lalabas dito sa likod. Right hand extends, top of the head. Then you go silya at mano. Okay, tricky, no? Again, I'll show you guys from the side. It might be easier to see. Top of the head, top of the head. And then here, as the left hand moves back, right hand extends, boom, tumama, silya at mano. Alright? This goes up here. So again, 1, 2, and 3. This is the most basic, ha? 1, 2, 3, silya at mano. Alright? Now, from silya at mano, you continue as before, mirror image. So it's gonna be 1 across, down and up, 2 down and up, 3 down and up. Alright? So again, ano yung tsura niya from the side? 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm gonna face you guys. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. From the side, from this side, it's gonna be top of the head, across, top of the head, down, top of the head, down. All right. Ito rin, top of the head, across, top of the head, down, top of the head, and back. Ito ka lang. And then as I mentioned last time, you want to make it as smooth as possible, no? Walang kanto yung movements. Hindi siya, no. Take your time, take it easy, big movements. Now, as I mentioned before, I like big movements. Ito. When you strike, big movements. I don't want you guys to do small movements. Alright? Kasi pwede isi-shortcut. It looks nice, no? Ang bilis tingnan. Maliit. But again, if you're stick fighting with this, no power. Right? Walang power siya. So we want to generate power. 1, 2, 3, 6. Alright? Kasi training pa lang naman eh. Kasi pag nag-training ka ng ganito, ito yung training mo na palo. Right? Pag nag-training ka nito, ito yung training mo na palo. Big movements. Bam! Bam! If you're actually hitting someone, I think, my opinion, this is more powerful, more effective than this one. Right? Ito baka gumana pag kamay yung tinamaan mo. Right? You hit the bony parts. Maybe it'll work. Ito, you can hit the face, you can hit the head, you can hit the neck. All right? That's going to create some impact. That's going to create some damage. Right? So that's why you train. Now, here's the fun part. When you're doing the redonda, diba? This is how I'm teaching you guys. 1, 2, 3. Silya at mano. 1, 2, 3. Mano at silya. 1, 2, 3. Silya at mano. 1, 2, 3. Mano at silya. Now we switch it around. We don't stop at the silya at mano. How does that look? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Alright, instead of silya at mano, 1, 2, 3 kagad. 3. And then wag na dito. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Alright, so you're not stopping at this anymore. You could do a continuous movement. Right? And as I mentioned, you want to maintain the large movement. Right? Stop here. Big movement. Big movement. Right? Why? The big movements really, really help you to learn how to generate power. And the big movement can make a small movement powerful. Pag ito ang tinraining mo, yung malaki, right? It will make your smaller movements more powerful. If you train your small movement, it can't make your big movement more powerful, right? Yeah. So that's a kind of an advanced concept, but if you guys can grasp that, you're ahead of the game. All right? So ito yung redonda. Boom, boom, boom. Very big, very smooth. Right? Okay. So let's stop for now. I'm going to show you guys then some of the applications of the redonda. The redonda is very good. And we're going to compare it to the 𝘵𝚒𝚗𝚒𝚜, which we learned last time. Right? So, how does this work? It's the same thing naman. Now, the good thing about the redonda is, it's better against attacks that are lower. What do I mean? The 𝘵𝚒𝚗𝚒𝚜 is very good if you're getting attacked to the top of the head, right? And you're doing this. That's very good. 𝘵𝚒𝚗𝚒𝚜. 1, 2, 3, right? That's what we learned last week. Now, the redonda is much, much better if your opponent is cutting through the middle, like so, right? Kasi pag dito, in order to apply the 𝘵𝚒𝚗𝚒𝚜, you have to go down. That's a lot of effort. Or, you can just use the redonda, which is diagonal down, diagonal down, diagonal down. Right? So, down, down, down. Ito lang siya. Boom, boom, boom. And as you notice, I'm going to show it to you guys. I think it's more obvious if I do it from here. As you notice, I'm going to start closing the gap. What does that mean? Ito yung attack, right? Parry away. I get closer, I still carry the weapon, control the weapon, and then here. So, the whole time I'm doing the redonda, I'm not just staying straight. No. We're moving forward. Right? Andun siya. So, very dynamic siya. Hindi siya, I mean, pwede, I suppose. If you're just aiming for the hand, that's fine. Right? But if you want to counter to the top of the head, right? 1, 2, 3. Right? Dynamic legs. As you can see, I use the combination of caballero and then guerrero footwork to make it work. So, alright. So that's basic number 1. If you're using redonda, it also works on the other side. Just in case you're wondering, if he's attacking from this side, right? It's the same thing. 1, 2, 3, boom, 4. Or, I like to counter with my right arm. So, it could be 1, 2, 3. Right? So if it's more redonda like 1, 2, 3, right? Very basic. You're just moving forward, right? Goes for the other side. Here's the fun part, all right? And this is something for you guys to think about. I'm always starting with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can start with number 2. How does that work? All right, so dito, this is 1, 2, right? 2. All right, if the opponent was striking me from this side, right? And I caught myself in this position. Kumari, pumalo ako sa kanya. Nakaiwas. He's countering here. I just use this one, right? Yun yung redonda. So, I attack the opponent, nag-counter siya, 2, 3, 4. Right? So, ang nangyari, it's 1 attack, 2 block, 3 control, 4 counters. So, don't need to hung up on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Depending on the situation, depending on the opponent's angle of attack, depending on where you're positioned. Okay? I already taught you guys the basics of the redonda. And just like what I taught last time, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to give you guys a glimpse of what the redonda means when you start applying it with a single stick. So like I mentioned last time, you don't need to know the redonda to be able to fight with a single stick. Kasi we've seen the single stick patterns. But your single stick techniques will dramatically improve pag meron ka ng redonda and you apply the redonda properly. Alright? How does this look? So like I mentioned earlier, the redonda is very good against low line attacks. Pag tinitira yung stomach or legs, right? The 𝘠𝚧𝚗𝚎𝚜 was very good against the top of the head. So for example, if an opponent were to cut lower here towards my body, right? The most basic technique for me to block is this one, right? If I had my hands low, because there are some fighting stances where it's a little bit low, you block here, right? And then you aim for the hand, boom. Very simple, right? Ito yung redonda. So how does that work? If I had 2 hands, this is what it's gonna look like, right? But here, right, I'm just using 1 hand. So ito lang. Very basic. But this movement, itong smooth flowing movement na to, you don't just get it overnight. You don't get it out of nowhere. You get it because nag-training ka nung swabe mo na redonda, right? So that's why this one, boom, boom, right? Smooth, right? So now, does that mean na puro pang low line attacks lang ang redonda? No, doesn't mean that. Alright? In fact, if your opponent was striking you to the top of the head, you just adapt the redonda a little bit, strike a little bit downwards here, and then you counter again. So here, down, down, boom, right? Again, if the opponent was attacking here, high line attack, you can go down, down, boom. Now as you can see, I'm using a weird grip for the sword because I'm grabbing it at the spine. Hindi ko siya ginagrab ng ganyan. Ito na. Right? This is a legitimate technique. You can use it for the hand, you can use it for the sword. Doesn't matter. Right? And you don't need a lot of control. You just need enough para boom! Yun lang, base lang. Pum! Right? Pag tinama mo na sa ulo yan, they'll react. You can do so much more. Right? So same thing. Low line attack dito sa kabilang side. Redonda goes this way, right? Boom, boom. So you just use the stick and then go there, right? So it's the same downward movement, boom. And like what we did last time with the redonda, we use this as an opportunity to grab your opponent's weapon hand, right? So, boom, boom, and then you pull this to your body, boom, right? To throw your opponent out of balance, right? So that's the most basic one, right? The most basic use of the redonda, the smoothness of the hand, right? So as I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned last time pala, not earlier, last time, then there's the applications for using the redonda without any weapons, right? Empty hand, dito. It's the same movement, right? But you're just learning how to trap your opponent's hand, how to move around it para hindi ka mapuruhan sa ulo, right? And then pumapasok din dyan yung using your elbows to defend yourself. Kasi like the redonda movement is like this, right? You can start using your elbow here. Kunwari sumuntok yung kalaban, you can cover yourself with the elbow or here, right? Different techniques. Okay? I'm not gonna go into that much detail today because medyo advanced na yun. I'm just giving you guys a taste of what it looks like. And like I mentioned last time, Knife work is also something that we do. If you're learning to defend against the knife, if you're learning to fight with a knife, redonda works well, all right? But actually the one that works really well with the knife is a different pattern called the reverse sinawali, but that's for another day, all right? So that's the application of the redonda, okay? So I hope you guys learned a lot with the double sinawali, the redonda, and all the things that we learned in these 2 Fridays of Arnis. Yeah, I hope this has encouraged you guys to start training with your local Arnis groups. If not with me, well, at least with your local Arnis groups. So hey guys, that was another good Friday. We learned a lot again, like we did last time. So I taught you guys a lot of single stick patterns and how those single stick patterns can be applied in specific situations. Also taught you guys how the footwork that we learned last time blends in with the single stick patterns that we did today, right? And we learned the redonda, the double stick pattern for today, and how it's different from what we learned last time. So guys, I hope this was a really useful thing for you. I hope you guys learned. I hope this has inspired you, not just to train, maybe if not with me, then at least with an Arnis group near you, right? You know, Arnis is one of my passions. It's something that I love. I love sharing it with people. And the more you guys do it, you know, the greater this community will become, all right? So, again, have a nice day, guys, and we're gonna do the last send-off. Handa sa pagpugay, handa, pugay. See you guys next time.